Hi, you're watching part 3 of an 8-part series about the Igavania or Metroidvania genre Castlevania games. This one is about Harmony of Dissonance. Harmony of Dissonance released in 2002 for the Game Boy Advance. Here's something weird Maxim, the second playable character, can do. When you walk with the left or right button, the player character in Harmony has some simulated momentum. Upon releasing a directional button, instead of coming to a dead stop, they continue moving for a short time. This adds to a feeling of weight, which is satisfying to control. Curiously though, the way this change from moving to stopping was implemented in this game has seriously weird consequences. Velocity is not decreased, but instead, negative velocity is added to smooth the time between moving and stopping. Right after a movement button is released, during this spurt of added negative velocity, let's backdash. Backdashing is weird too. You'd think that a backdash state might set a specific velocity for the player character, but instead, it's additive. This backdash is now extra fast just from the act of coming to a complete stop from walking. Normally, friction from the ground or the air would bring velocity back to within normal limits, but if we do these motions at a ledge, we can use a normal attack immediately upon leaving the ledge with the dash momentum. Attacking in the air in Harmony has its own quirk, which is that it freezes horizontal momentum in place for the duration of the attack. So suddenly, we've built up a lot of speed and managed to freeze that value for a while. Maxim can clip into walls, zipping him above them. In rooms like this, you can explore several different places where you might end up. Almost every save room in Harmony is suitable for zipping Maxim into walls, finding yourself in seemingly random, distant locations half the game world away. Here's what my map screen looked like at the end of a recent Maxim playthrough, where I zipped him around for fun almost everywhere I could. Using more complicated methods, Harmony's main character, Juste, can also exploit momentum quirks to zip through the game's areas. And speaking of the game's areas, this game has 2 castles again, just like Symphony of the Night. Harmony's most unique feature lies in the way that these castles are traversed through a playthrough. In Symphony of the Night, you basically progress through the normal castle and then tackle the inverted castle. But in Harmony, normal progression in the game includes warp rooms that whisk Juste away to far-off, seemingly disconnected locations. When you reach the halfway-ish point of the game by reaching the rightmost part of the castle, Death reveals in a cutscene that Juste had already seen certain parts of both castles, A side and B side. The only intended way to progress in the game sees Juste snaking around between the 2 castles in order to find all the necessary items to proceed. The game utilizes 2 identically shaped castles to double the combat variety. The 2 sides to one room feature completely different enemy encounters, including 19 boss fights spread across the 2 castles. Harmony certainly prides itself on having a lot of boss encounters. The game's opening makes sure to show off its fancy multiple sprite puppeteering to make giant bosses. Symphony of the Night also had a few enemies rendered in this way, but in Harmony it comes off as charmingly treasure game for the Mega Drive, or Castlevania Bloodlines. Fancy graphics come at a cost on the Game Boy Advance though. All computation power on the Game Boy Advance happens in its CPU. The GBA's 32-bit CPU is a serious step up from the hardware running pretty much any previous handheld gaming system, even including the Sega Nomad, which is just a Sega Mega Drive running on battery power. The GBA's CPU includes all of the GBA's sound hardware embedded in it, which means that the CPU can be more accurately described as an SoC or system on a chip, since, well, it does nearly everything. The one major dilemma of the GBA's chipset is that with the one main CPU delivering all of the nearly everything, developers often had to choose between making their games graphically impressive, having clean-sounding audio, or trying to strike a balance between the 2. The Castlevania trilogy on Game Boy Advance can actually be used as a full example of these 3 options. For an even more intensified exhibit of these 3 Game Boy Advance performance outcomes, sounding impressive, looking impressive, and a balanced approach, check out Mother 3, The King of Fighters EX, Neo Blood, and Drill Dozer, respectively. This is the case because rendering more graphics on the screen costs CPU cycles. Crunching the data for high-quality sound samples costs CPU cycles. And the GBA's CPU only has so many cycles to go around, especially when nearly all GBA games target a refresh rate of 60 frames per second. With Harmony of Dissonance and its fancy Mega Drive-like boss fights, serious compromises had to be made. Fewer CPU cycles delegated to sound samples meant that much of the background music had to accommodate the main instruments being simple, 8-bit style wave generation sounds that the GBA could produce in its sleep. Soshiro Hokai is responsible for almost all of Harmony's soundtrack and did fantastic work with the challenge at hand. The compositions are jazzy, spooky, and unnerving in a way that really brings this Castlevania to life, despite the extreme sound limitations. And that's Harmony of Dissonance, one of the least popular games in this set, and sure, I can see why, but there's still a lot of fun to be had. Try the randomizer. It has settings to shuffle the entrances to areas, which can be a real nightmare. Harmony of Dissonance, except you have to take notes on how to get anywhere. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to see the next part, a video about the next game, Aria of Sorrow. Aria of Sorrow released only 11 months after Harmony of Dissonance. Both Harmony and Aria were developed around the same time, but staggered so that Harmony could come out first, and then Aria could have the benefit of player and reviewer feedback on Harmony.